Hello, and welcome back to Simple English Stories. I'm Michael, and I'm really glad you're here with me today. In this episode, we're diving into a super important topic for anyone learning English and planning to explore the world, or even travel for work: the airport. Today's video features the story of Emma, a young woman who ends up with quite an unexpected surprise on her trip, all because of a luggage mix-up. After the story, we'll go over some really useful vocabulary and expressions you can use at the airport. Thanks so much for tuning in, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Alright, let's get into today's lesson. Emma, a 26-year-old woman, was walking through the busy lobby of Heathrow International Airport in London, her eyes shining with excitement. It was a typical grey morning in the city, but nothing could take away the thrill she was feeling. After years of planning, saving money, and daydreaming, she was finally about to board her first international flight, alone. Her destination? Italy, a country she had dreamed about since she was a teenager, with its ancient ruins, delicious gelato, and breathtaking views. Her trip was carefully planned. Every detail was written down in a red notebook she carried with her: 3 days in Rome, 4 in Florence, and the rest in Venice, where she wanted to wander through the narrow streets and canals, just like she had seen in movies and books. Emma was that kind of person, organized, detail-oriented, and deeply in love with culture, art, and new discoveries. Maybe that's why, and also because of her anxious nature, she had arrived at the airport more than 3 hours early. After checking in her suitcase, going through security, and buying a coffee, she went straight to Gate 12, where her flight to Rome would depart. The area was still quiet, with just a few people waiting to board, so Emma sat in one of the seats by the window. From there, she watched the planes move along the runway and tried to calm the mix of nerves and excitement growing inside her. At that moment, everything seemed normal. But Emma had no idea that something unexpected was about to happen, and that one suitcase could change her trip completely. As she slowly sipped her cappuccino, Emma decided to double-check everything. She opened her carry-on backpack, checked her passport for the 3rd time, and looked at the suitcase she had placed beside her. It was a medium-sized black suitcase with brown leather details. Simple but stylish, just the way she liked it. But something felt wrong. When she leaned forward to check the luggage tag, a cold chill ran down her spine. Instead of her full name, Emma Louise Carter, the tag clearly said Daniel Foster. "No, this can't be happening," she whispered, suddenly sitting up straight, her heart racing. The suitcase looked exactly like hers in every way: the model, the color, even the little keychain on the zipper. But it wasn't hers. Feeling a mix of panic and determination, Emma stood up quickly and started looking around, hoping to spot someone who might have made the same mistake, or someone carrying her real suitcase. Nothing. The few people at the gate were busy with their phones or sleeping. She grabbed the wrong suitcase and rushed toward the security area. She walked fast through the wide airport hallways, trying to remember exactly where she had been after going through the X-ray machine. She asked 2 airport staff members for help, and they directed her to the lost and found desk. And that's where everything started to change. As she turned the corner near the desk, Emma almost bumped into a guy who looked a bit confused. His hair was slightly messy, his t-shirt wrinkled, and he was holding a suitcase identical to hers. "Is this your bag?" he asked, frowning as he looked at the tag. "Emma Carter?" Yes, that's mine. And you're Daniel Foster? That's me. Looks like we have the same taste in luggage, he said, giving her a half smile. Emma was still trying to recover from the confusion, but she couldn't help but laugh. The whole situation was ridiculous, and at the same time, such a relief. Daniel, on the other hand, seemed to find it all pretty funny. He explained that he only realized the switch because the suitcase felt lighter than usual. And when he quietly opened the zipper, he saw a pink toiletry bag and a few travel guides about Italy. I thought either someone broke into my suitcase, or I somehow turned into another person during the flight, he joked. After fixing the suitcase mix-up, Emma and Daniel walked back to the boarding gate more calmly. The worst part was over, and now there was a kind of shared lightness between them, like the whole crazy situation had created a little bubble away from the airport chaos. It was just after 10 a.m., and boarding would start in 30 minutes. So, they decided to stop at a small cafe near the gate to relax and talk. They sat at a table by the window, where they could see the runways and the planes. With warm cappuccino mugs in their hands and their bags, now clearly labeled, at their feet, they began to chat more freely. Daniel was the first to start the conversation. So, first time in Italy? Yes, I've always dreamed about it. I studied art history in college, and since then, Rome, Florence, and Venice have become almost an obsession for me. Wow. I just know the pizza's good and the coffee's even better, he said, laughing. But I'm going to Milan for a design conference. I work with brand identity. Not as artistic as you, but sometimes I get creative. Emma smiled. Hey, design is art too. And Milan is like the capital of modern design, right? That was enough to spark a conversation full of little discoveries. They found out they both had a childlike love for physical maps, the paper kind, kept travel journals, and preferred small local bakeries over fancy restaurants. Emma admitted she had an overly detailed itinerary of everything she wanted to see, including gelato shops, while Daniel said he had only booked his hotel and left the rest to fate. You're super organized, I'm total chaos. But hey, we're going to the same place. I mean, different destinations. But the same starting point, she said, looking out the window. Time passed faster than they expected. Emma checked her watch and gasped. Boarding time. Gate 12, final run? Final run. They stood up, laughing, and ran together down the hallway toward the gate. There was a new energy between them, something hard to explain but easy to feel. It wasn't just the adrenaline from the mix-up or the relief of fixing it. It felt like something was falling into place, just for a moment. They reached the gate out of breath, but just in time. The line was already forming. Emma held her suitcase tightly, now with a blue ribbon tied to it to avoid future mix-ups, and looked at Daniel, who smiled like this had been the highlight of his day. In just half an hour of conversation and shared stories, something had changed. Two strangers now felt like old friends, connected not just by a suitcase mistake, but by things they might never have discovered in any other situation. Already on the plane, Emma found her seat, 18A, by the window, and sat down with a satisfied sigh. She placed her backpack under the seat in front of her, pulled her coat over her legs, and rested her head against the cool side of the plane, watching the movement outside. The London sky was still gray, but inside her, there was a kind of personal sunshine, radiating calm, excitement, and curiosity. She was still smiling, thinking about the suitcase mix-up, the surprise of meeting Daniel, and the unexpectedly fun conversation they had. It was strange how someone completely unknown could feel so familiar in less than an hour. She wasn't sure if it was the stress of the airport, the relief of getting her bag back, or the natural way they talked, but one thing was clear: something had changed that morning. And she could feel it in her whole body. She was lost in thought when she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Excuse me, can I get through?" Emma turned her head and almost laughed out loud. It was Daniel, with his backpack over his shoulders, holding his boarding pass and looking at her like he wasn't sure whether to laugh or apologize. "You've got to be kidding," she said, smiling. 18B. You're in 18A, right? "This is starting to feel like a romantic comedy," he replied, clearly amused and surprised. She moved a little to let him in. Daniel sat down next to her, still laughing at the coincidence. For a moment, they just looked at each other, as if sharing a secret with the universe. Nothing had been planned or arranged, but here they were, side by side again. "I swear I didn't follow you," he joked. "Of course not. I followed you and bribed the airline," she replied, matching his tone. They both laughed. The plane started taxiing, and a quiet calm settled between them. They looked out the window as the runway came into view, hearing the muffled sound of the engines getting louder. "Well, since we're going to spend the next 2 hours sitting together, maybe we should finish that talk about Italian pizza." "Ah, yes. Important question. Thin crust or thick?" "This answer might decide the future of our friendship," he said, winking. Emma laughed again. And in that moment, as the plane lifted off and the city below became smaller and smaller, she realized something interesting. The trip had barely begun, and it was already turning out to be completely different from anything she had planned. She had prepared for museums, cobblestone streets, photos of monuments, and quiet dinners alone in little local restaurants. But now, a new story seemed to be beginning, one that even the best travel plan couldn't have predicted. And all because of one simple suitcase mix-up. During the flight, time seemed to move at a different pace. Emma and Daniel got caught up in an easy, fun conversation, full of laughter and sarcastic comments, like old friends catching up after years apart. They talked about everything: past trips, favorite books, childhood movies, awkward moments with foreign taxi drivers, and even their silliest fears, like losing a passport or ordering the wrong thing in Italian and accidentally eating liver. The in-flight coffee wasn't even that good, but with the right company, Emma hardly noticed. Before they knew it, they were sharing a pack of butter cookies he had bought at the airport and swapping tips on must-see places in Italy. She opened her travel notebook and, without hesitation, showed him her whole plan, marked with colorful sticky notes and little comments. Daniel, clearly impressed, pointed to places with real curiosity, even some he was also planning to visit. Then something came up: Florence. Emma said, with excitement, that she would be there next week, right in the middle of her trip. "Really? I'll be there too. I arrive Tuesday and stay until Friday," he said, raising his eyebrows. "I'm arriving Tuesday too. But I'm staying until Sunday, for now," she replied, pretending to be mysterious. They both smiled. It was the kind of coincidence that starts to feel like fate. As the plane neared Rome, Emma looked out the window and saw the clouds beginning to clear, revealing the Italian landscape below. She felt a flutter in her stomach, The kind you get right before discovering something new. Or someone. With their seatbelts fastened for landing, Daniel looked at her, a bit more serious, and said, "If you don't think I'm some crazy coincidence guy, can I text you when I get to Florence?" "That depends. Are you good at picking gelato shops?" "I'm great at pretending I know what I'm doing with exotic flavors." "Then text me," she said, handing him her phone number. "Just don't choose pistachio with cinnamon. That would be the end." They exchanged contacts right there, with the engine noise growing louder and the landing announcement playing overhead. Daniel saved her number with a suitcase emoji, and she saved his with a pizza and a plane. The plane landed smoothly at Fiumicino Airport, and as the wheels touched Italian ground, Emma felt something shift inside her. This trip, so carefully planned, had just gained a new element, spontaneous, unexpected, and wonderfully intriguing. They said goodbye at baggage claim with a short but warm hug and a smile that said this wasn't the last time they'd meet. Emma walked out of the airport with her suitcase, her notebook, and a feeling that sometimes the best encounters begin in the most unexpected places, like Gate 12 of a random airport. That was a fun story, right? Emma's trip started with a suitcase mistake, but also with a surprising new friendship. Now, let's slow things down and take a closer look at some of the useful words we heard in the story, especially the ones you might need at the airport. Because if you ever travel abroad, these words will help you feel more confident and prepared. So, grab your notebook. It's time to learn some travel English. Check-in and baggage. Let's start at the check-in counter. When you arrive at the airport, the first thing you do is check in for your flight. If you have a big suitcase, you need to check your bag or check your luggage. That means you give it to the airline and they put it on the plane. Now, your suitcase needs a luggage tag. This tag has your name and flight information. Because if there's a suitcase mix-up, they can find your bag later. A mix-up means a mistake, like when two people take the wrong bag. Small bags, like a carry-on backpack, stay with you. You take them on the plane. Security and boarding. After check-in, you go to security. Here, you take off your shoes, put your things in a tray, and walk through a scanner. This is important to keep everyone safe. Then, you go to your boarding gate. This is where your plane is waiting. Look at the screen for your departure time. That's when your flight leaves. And don't worry, if you lose something like your passport, go to Lost and Found. Maybe someone found it and turned it in. Inside the plane. Now you're ready to board. That means to get on the plane. You show your ticket and passport, and then walk to the plane. Maybe your seat is a window seat. That's the best one, right? You can look outside and see the runway. That's the road where the plane takes off. And remember, always be nice to the flight attendants. They help you find your seat and serve food during the flight. So now you know some important airport words in English. Let's review. Boarding gate. Carry-on backpack. Luggage tag. Runway. Check your bag. Lost and found. These are real-life words you will use if you travel. Practice them, and next time you're at the airport, you'll feel confident. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, follow, and share this episode with your travel buddy. See you next time on Simple English Stories. Bye.